Must prepare myself.
What
Vocally, emotionally, spiritually.
the, what the fuck ever? You told me your acting secret is all your characters are you. So what the fuck you got to prepare?
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Down Roll. My name is Adam. Over here is Will.DM. You're counting shit. You don't know what you're counting. You're always off.
Yes,
you don't, and it doesn't matter anyway. I don't even know how many of these there are, but this is a new one. And today we are going to talk about a party and how important is a balanced party, because ain't no party like a D&D party, because a D&D party don't stop.
Ooh, I
assume that's what we mean by party. Am I?
Yeah, man.
All right, cool.
Little bit of blow.
Yeah, just hookers and blow, man. That's a balanced party as far as I'm concerned,
right?
Motherfucker.
Dead in the pain. Dead in the pain.
It's only a good party when you can't feel or remember anything about
That's
your
right.
life. All right.
I've got way too many stories, but we ain't got time for that right now.
All right. So, Will, DM, what is a balanced party? What do we mean when we say that?
Well, a balanced party is in D&D terms, okay, because that's where it originates from anyway.
Sure. But this can go for any role-playing
It
game,
can.
I imagine,
It can.
that has a party. But we're going to talk about D&D, really.
Yeah.
And you can probably, if you play Pathfinder, you'll be able to follow along.
Yes, exactly. Because let's be honest, and I'll say it because I don't care if I upset Pathfinder people. Pathfinder's D&D.
Pathfinder's D&D.
Although I will say now,
3rd edition.
with their with Pathfinder 2nd edition, that is now they're really coming to their own. I would actually say that that's original. That's
right. We should talk about that one day, but not today because it doesn't
not today.
matter.
Not today.
Yeah, we're talking about this specifically, a balanced party. What is it?
Well, a balanced party is essentially in D&D. You have multiple classes. You got fighters. You got wizards. You got thieves.
Sure.
You
got
know all
monks.
that different stuff. Yeah, and so what the idea of the balanced party comes around is that you needed each one of these classes represented, at least the core classes.
You're talking about like a 4-person party, right?
So yeah, so we'll say you needed a cleric
Sure.
for the healing.
You
needed a fighter to tank stuff up and to soak damage and stuff. You needed a wizard for your area of effect and your magic and boom boom. And then you needed a rogue to disable them traps and stuff like that.
Sure.
And that's the nucleus, and that's what they mean when they say a balanced party.
Right.
And essentially the idea was when you go into a dungeon, you needed all these skills represented so that all the challenges that you would come up against, you were prepared to take care of. That's where the idea of and the term balanced party comes from.
And this really started in OD&D, yeah?
Actually, sort of. It doesn't actually really come in because you got to remember back in OD&D days,
You were just going to die anyway. It didn't matter what your party looked like.
pretty much. I mean, but
There was no way to succeed.
races
So why bother
were
trying?
their own classes. So you didn't play a fighter that was an
that's
elf.
true.
You played an elf, and so forth. So there was a lot of
Humans were the only ones that had classes? Is that how that worked?
Correct.
Okay.
And even back then it was extremely limited. So the one that you really needed back in OD&D days, where you needed the cleric for his healing,
Sure.
but he didn't start healing until 2nd level.
What?
Yeah. and you
He
needed
was just
the
one of those
wizard.
preachy religious types up until then.
Yeah, he was just trying to prove to his deity that, yeah, man, I got it.
So he
What
spent
it.
a whole level begging his
Oh,
deity for help.
but that's okay. That's better than what the wizard's problem, because the wizard was basically, he just sucked until he got the spells that he needed.
The wizard
You
basically
started with one fucking spell that was like randomly rolled, and if you didn't have a good the spell that was the golden spell to start off with was sleep. If you could get that at first level, then you were a contributor. Otherwise, you just like you were a pack animal. You carried everybody else's shit until they found a spell that made you useful.
So, and essentially, like, now they have, equipment, like starting equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, the wizard starting equipment was his own coffin.
And that was it, actually, because it was easier to carry, and you just stuffed his corpse into the bag. And that's if you were nice. Usually, they just roll,
just leave him.
Yeah.
So now, has having a balanced party then always been a thing? It doesn't sound like it.
Actually, no. And this is now, of course, as always, these are my opinions, and generally, most people think I'm full of shit.
But, I do.
Exactly. See, and balanced parties come around really as you get because OD&D original Dungeons and Dragons, from there you comes advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and at the same time, essentially, as advanced Dungeons and Dragons is coming around, they have the different incarnations. Like they had the Mulvey version, and they had the Holmes version of the basic D&D. It was the evolution of OD&D, and that became basic Dungeons and Dragons, expert Dungeons and Dragons, companion Dungeons and Dragons, which that's actually a separate game. But those are pretty much, they're evolving at the same time at the beginning there. And as they evolve, you get more defined character classes and character abilities that come about. Like when Dungeons and Dragons originally first happened, there were no rogues. So you couldn't have one to have a balanced party. He comes into and they were called thieves then.
Right.
The thief comes in some of the later.
He was there in the red box.
It was in the red box, but you're talking about the original supplement. So you're talking the Greyhawk. I think it might be the Greyhawk supplement where they first pop up, but if it's not there, then it would be like the Blackmore supplement. And those supplements that came out, the original pamphlet books before they started with the as we recognize them, that's the Holmes and the Mulvey versions of it.
Yeah, Tim Holmes.
Yeah, Holmes.
I want to be a rogue, Holmes.
There you go. But as they evolved and there became more and more, that's all right, go ahead. We expect it. We get more and more of this character clash specialization, and the dungeons and the game became more complex at the same time. Mm-hmm. So, and that's how you get the evolution of that. And as they evolve, you became just like, okay, well, we need this guy for that. We need this guy for that. And and that continued on up and through. It went through second edition and into third 3.5, and it doesn't really stop. I mean, in third edition, you could start to see the cracks already forming, because they started allowing a lot more specialization of the characters. But by the time fourth edition hits, that's when it really starts to really change. And in fifth edition now, they allow for a lot of other character classes to pick up and do different things that used to be the private domain of other classes.
Right. And a lot of it seems to revolve around healing.
Healing's a big example, yeah.
And also, I mean, damage and stuff like that. So,
another one is traps and
anyone can
locks. Anybody can do that now, but rogues are the ones who will have the really sweet specialized skills, and thusly they're able to hit those really high DCs. And now you also have right behind them, just a sliver behind them, can be essentially like bards.
Yeah.
If you build your bard in a certain way, you could get them doing a lot of the rogue type of work. But anybody can do it. You just have to pick a background that gives you the ability, gives you that tool set of being able to do that with thieves tools. And if you got thieves tools, then you can pick locks and you can try and disarm
Sure.
traps.
You can pick locks with reckless abandon.
Yes, you can.
So now, how has the need of a balanced party changed with the different editions?
Well, it's changed a lot. I would say back during when Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and Second Edition were around, the need for balanced party was a real thing.
Sure, yeah, I remember that.
You needed
that's what I started playing.
Yeah,
and you needed a cleric. They always had it basically you had to pick your class fast, otherwise you were the cleric.
Yeah, which is kind of funny because it's like the cleric is probably one of the most important.
Right, but no one wanted to play
but nobody wanted to play them, right? Which that changed because they actually got smart about how they allowed the clerics, and the clerics became more specialized according to what deity they were a priest of, cleric of. So, but during Advanced Dungeons and Dragons in Second Edition, it was it was real. You know, you really needed it, and if you didn't have it, you were going to have to really figure out how to play smart to the way to take care. And even then, you would definitely be caught in situations where there just really wasn't. You could be totally stymied by certain situations.
Sure,
especially when magic came into play. If you didn't have the right spells to counteract something or to remove, like, you know, the way that curses were done and diseases and poisons and all those different things in the older editions were a fuck ton more deadly than they are now. And if you didn't have the right cleric around that could take care of that stuff, you were pretty screwed, you know.
And so now fourth edition, it seems like, is kind of when it didn't matter as much because they tried to really just make every character class, I should say, almost the same. So you had there's little differences here and there, but basically you could do damage, you could take hits, and you could probably heal.
What they were trying to do is make everybody more self-sufficient.
Right.
They wanted to get away from that balanced party aspect of it, and they wanted to make this is a big thing, and this still exists in 5th edition, is they wanted to make characters survivable. They didn't want the ease of death
because they knew there were dungeon masters like you that were willy-nilly killing
only
characters.
with certain people. Even in 5th edition, I kill you easy. So
asshole.
And that was the thing. They wanted to make it so that players were able to be self-sufficient,
because it almost went MMO territory where you could kind of play by yourself or with a group.
Yeah.
So you had to be fairly self-sufficient,
and they did that on purpose. And they modeled it after the video games. That's why you had all these character classes had all these powers that they could use that were like one-off kind of powers that you could use per rest and things along these lines. You still have some of that in 5th edition, but 5th edition is more curtailed towards the older editions and how it allowed you to do these things and how often you get to do them.
Yeah.
So they really dialed all of that back because, basically people don't want, if you're playing a tabletop game, you want to play a tabletop game. You don't want to play,
that was what really turned me off about 4th edition.
Yeah. And that's what turned the bulk of, let's put it this way. When 4th edition hit, the craze wasn't in. Okay.
Yeah.
So the bulk, the large majority of the people that were getting into trying 4th edition, these are all older. These are people who've been playing D&D already, and it was such a drastic change and completely unlike everything they'd known before. They didn't want to have anything to do with it. Right. I'm not saying 4th edition was a bad game.
Pathfinder.
No, Pathfinder was 3rd edition.
I know. I'm just saying that really gave him a boost, though.
Oh, yes, correct. You're right. And that's exactly. Paizo got a huge shot in the arm and took up the reins of what traditional at that point in time D&D was, which was the third edition, which everybody really liked third edition when it came out.
I did. I think I preferred second edition though overall. Although I like third edition a lot. I like the skills and everything like that. I didn't think there were too many like we have with Pathfinder now, but
it was really good when it first came out.
I didn't play 3.5. We stuck with 3.
When it first came out, it was good.
That's
but
still
then
the the 3.0 player's handbook anyway. So.
Well, and that's what you see, the crunch that is Pathfinder. That's what third edition Dungeons and Dragons was evolving into anyway. Right. So, yeah.
So, I find like in 5th edition though, and I'll use an example. We were playing Horde of the Dragon Queen. And we did not have a cleric. And we were getting our ass kicked pretty early on, where I started off as a rogue and then multi-classed into a bard just to get, because I had a high charisma, just to get some healing spells. And then eventually we let you play because you said you'd be a cleric.
Yeah, it's like that dude said he would play cleric.
Well, if idiot wants to be a cleric, let him in.
Yeah.
So it feels like we're kind of, although there's still, I think, a good amount of balance between classes. Like, I don't think anyone is more overpowered than another. I think that, we're going, it almost, and there's a ton of fucking classes now, but I think we're going back to like almost like that, somewhat of a balanced party.
Yes and no. Basically, what they did,
like you can't have like 4 fighters in a party.
It would be hard. And this is the thing. Now, if the question is party balance still necessary? And my answer would be maybe. And the reason I say that is not to just poke out with it. It's because it depends on how you play. Mm-hmm. Because with the way the rules are now, if you're a cautious group that, is meticulous about how you do things.
That's how I play.
Whatever. Example, not that guy.
I'm very cautious in how I play.
If that's how you can definitely play that way, and you could run a group without a cleric. It would be harder in certain situations.
You would need someone to heal, but there are other healers.
Well, they have now in 5th edition. They have that, whereas they didn't have it in 3rd or 2nd or 1st. That short rest thing. Okay,
yeah,
that didn't used to exist.
And the long rest really helps the healing too.
Yeah, and so that's the thing is that it really depends on how you play. Most of like the new people who are coming in, the new players and people who are really beat on the you have to have a balanced party thing is because the way they play dictates that they should have that balanced party. And most of the time when they're saying balanced party, what they're really saying is you need a fucking clear. Yeah, that's exactly what they're actually saying. They say balanced party.
Everything else is expendable except for the cleric.
Yeah, it's always nice to, man, I wish we had somebody who could like just tell us what these magic items did,
But I guess we can always pay when we get to the next town or just try them out. Who cares?
Exactly. So that's today really is it is dependent on your style of play, but it's always been that way. It's just easier now with the different abilities that the characters have in 5th edition to do it that way.
Right. So now what can you do if you don't have a quote unquote balanced party today?
And I started getting into that. Basically, what it is, let's say, we'll take a couple examples. If you've got a party of fighters, you have to be very cautious on how you approach situations.
Which doesn't sound like a fighter.
Well, if in your mind a fighter means charging in, just to...
All right, in my defense, every character class means just charging in.
Yes, so there you go. But so... if you got a bunch of fighters, you have to be very cautious in how you approach the situation. Because you know that the healing in the combat isn't going to be something that you can rely on. So there would be a lot of pulling of enemies. And these are the different things. Like you set up the ambush area.
Mm-hmm.
One dude gets picked to be okay because you're the quickest, Lou. You go down that hall, and you need to draw all the enemies to us. Go down and go, and then run back. And you set up
Lou
an
is
ambush.
also the guy that nobody likes at the table.
Well, he's usually the rookie.
Yeah.
So, and
no, it'll be fine. Just do it.
Yeah, trust us. We do this all the time. But that's how you have to approach things differently. Like a party of rogues, you've got the stealth action going on.
Yeah.
So
party of rogues, I think, would be pretty effective even without the healing.
Could be, depending on how you approach the situation. Like, for example, if you're being all stealthy and just like coverting it through, then if you get to a certain position, if you're going to unleash on somebody, you got to pretty much know how you're going to do it. You have to have tactics and different things kind of set up beforehand, and that's what you need. I think still to this day, I think a party of paladins would be spectacular.
But they could also heal.
Yes, and that's one of the things that they could do. They can't be stealthy and stuff.
No, but you don't. If you require more, you got 4 paladins or 5 paladins. I don't know that you need the stealth.
Yeah, possibly. It all depends. It all depends. A wizard at the back of a room lobbing fireballs over at you before you get to him is a completely different story. True. And if they hear for like 15 minutes beforehand, clang, 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 as you guys come up the hall, it's a completely different story.
So now, what does it mean to the dungeon master? Now you're a DM, right?
Yes.
You got a little .dm after your name there.
I know.
So you should be able to answer this question. You just made it up on
I killed my 1,000th character and became an official DM.
Yeah. 999 of them were mine.
There you go.
So what does it mean to the DM if the party is not balanced?
Now, this is one of the other things. Now, that's when a DM, because this is part of it too, because a DM will pressure groups to have the balanced party, and the reason the DM
and why do they do that?
They do that because it's easier for them to prepare their scenarios because they know that the players have these sort of skills at their disposal, so they can throw them at them. So, like, for example, if you know that you're playing a group of rogues, then design some of the adventure for them. Design it with the combats are ones that when they get into them, they're not going to be overpowered. Throw at them a bunch of, traps and puzzles and different things also that they can work on that they can try and overcome instead of going, okay, you open up the door. There's 75 goblins. That's not the good production for a group of rogues. Now, a group of paladins, they open up the door, they see 75 goblins, they're like, charge!
Yeah,
that could
like
work.
Christmas for them.
Yeah. So,
but now you figure most groups are not going to be all one thing or another. They're usually going to be missing something, whether it's a wizard or a paladin or, or some sort of heavy hitter fighter type or a cleric in most cases, because nobody still wants to play clerics.
I do.
Except for you.
Yeah.
I've never played a cleric.
Oh, they're fun.
One day, maybe.
Yeah, one day.
So in that case, like, what do you do? Because you figure in a lot of instances, you're going to have a lack of healing. So as a DM, what does that mean to you besides TPK?
Well, and this is where when you're preparing as a dungeon master, this is where the front end load of stuff comes into play. If you know that your party that you're running is a certain way and does certain things, make other things available for them. It doesn't have to be like, oh, we're going to totally have these guys all set up, and I think they still have it. I don't know what the 5th edition rules of it is, but back in the day, they had Kyotoman's ointment, which was what
was this?
Kyotoman's ointment, which is a salve, or Kyotoman's, which is like a salve.
What's a Kyotoman?
That was the guy's name. It's like Tensor's floating disc. It was just Kyotoman's
and this
ointment.
Is an actual...
It's a magical item.
Yeah, they don't have that anymore.
You know what? I don't know. I have to look into DMG. But
put it down in the comments if you know what the fuck Will is talking about.
Grognards know.
Yeah, grognards no, because they're using that ointment.
Yeah, you got it.
They have a
So,
particular rash.
not with the Kyoto ointment,
No, it clears it right up.
Yeah. So what it is it's a healing salve that you can put on wounds. You front end load the characters with
someone here. Hold on, I gotta stop for a second. Most people would go for like a healing potion well before they ever got to Kyotoman's salve or ointment or whatever it is.
And this is the reason why Kyotoman's ointment would be a better thing for them to have.
They wouldn't even know what it is.
Because a healing potion weighs more.
Okay.
And you're gonna be consuming a lot more of this sort of stuff. So having something like a salve that the one container that weighs less than, say, a healing potion is the equal to 5 healing potions.
But
that's a big deal.
You can recognize that most people would immediately think of healing potion.
Of course. But this is where, and that's why I'm saying the front end workload of it, what you have to do is you have to go, okay, well, if I've got 4 fighters and half of their inventory is taken up with healing potions and stuff, you still are going to come into, granted, you'll have some healing, but you're going to come into play where you're still going to have to be tactical about it because it takes some time to drink a potion. Even with the ointment, you have to apply it. So it's not like something you go, oh, hold on a second. You got to get it out.
No, I think we've all spent time applying ointment.
Yes, we have. Especially at the beach.
Yeah, and other places.
Yeah. But then, so it's front end work. You apply and work towards.
Now, do you change the encounters at all, or you just?
Oh yeah, you totally change the encounters. Like the old school modules are designed for balanced parties. Okay, that's where you can actually, and that's again, this is where a lot of these things come into play in the evolution of what we became known as the regular Dungeons and Dragons. That came through the modules. Well, the modules were all originally designed for tournaments. You know what I'm saying? So they were kind of designed. They were.
I understand the word tournament.
They were designed for that, and so having a balanced party was a bigger deal there. Here, you change up the encounters. You change up the things that they're going to meet or interact with. And like I say, not every encounter has to be a brawl. Now, granted, everybody likes to get into a good fight from time to time. But at the same time, this is where you change things up. You make more different types of traps and things along these lines.
Puzzles, maybe.
Puzzles, even. Yeah, exactly. Because basically, you don't want to overwhelm your party because you want your players to have a good time, and everybody just getting their ass kicked. That's not the DM will like it.
Yeah, I was going to say, that doesn't seem like you subscribe to this theory. It's sort of like, do what I say, not what I do type advice.
No, that's what I love about doing Ghost of Saltmarsh is because I go, hey, man, it's in the module. I'm just doing what the module says.
I just threw it at you.
So, yeah.
So, take your DM hat off for a minute. Put your player's hat on. If you were playing in a group, do you think it's necessary, or would you try to create a balanced party, or do you think you just play every player just plays what they want to play, and let's figure it out as we go?
Hands down, every player should play what they want to play. I know that I am in the minority when I say that. It's paramount to some people. Like, oh, that's blasphemy. You can't do that. You gotta, no. If the players are playing what they enjoy, they will have more fun. Just that simple. It's a real simple equation. Then, like I said, then the other work comes in where the DM has to take all of that into consideration when they're making the campaign or making their encounters. They just take that into consideration, and there you go. If everybody else is having fun, and let's put it this way, if you're playing, everybody's done this, and this is one of the biggest things too, and everybody can instantly understand what I'm talking about. You sit down, especially people who've played for a while.
Grognards would understand.
Yeah, sure. Grognards, why not? You join a party, everybody's making stuff. You're a little unsure what you want to play right off the bat, but everybody else kind of knows, and they jump on it. And it's like you were saying earlier. Then it's like, okay, well, what are you going to play? And it's like, and then you choose. It's like, well, I'll try to help the party out to be balanced, and then you choose a character class that you're kind of lukewarm about playing. Now it might work out, you might have a great time, or you might just not care about the character at all, and thusly you're not going to have as good of a time playing. If you're not having as good time playing, your other players aren't. Your DM won't have a good time playing either. You know, and that's the thing. I've had enough experience, and I know how to have fun without being 100% dependent on my character. But when we start playing Tomb of Annihilation, I normally never play casters. It's not my deal. I'm not a big caster.
You played two of them back to back.
I play two back to back. And the reason I did that is because there were no casters in the party whatsoever.
Right.
And I knew, this is me meta gaming here a little bit, that Tomb of Annihilation is a little more old school.
Right.
But both of them died.
Because now you're a barbarian.
I'm a barbarian.
Yeah. Just so you can try. You have enough hit points, you can maybe stay alive.
Well, I got to the point. It's like, screw it. I tried it twice, and I lost both of my casters.
The end.
Yeah, I want something with a little more hit points this time around.
Understandable. So. Anyway, folks, tell us what you think about a balanced party. Good, bad, you don't care. You just love hearing the sound of our voices. Whatever it is, put it down there in the chat here on Twitch. I think
it's a good way to also, if you got ideas for being a DM, to plan for an unbalanced party.
Yeah, how do you do that?
Put that down there. Yeah, if you got suggestions.
Give Will some suggestions, because in Saltmarsh, we've got, 2 druids, a cleric, a monk, and a barbarian. It's actually not a bad. That's not a bad party makeup, actually.
No, it's not. It's not. It's good.
Anyway, we will see you next time on the Down Roll. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, all of that bullshit. Here on Twitch, on YouTube, on Facebook, and I don't know. You could stalk us and find us other places and do those things the same way.
We can talk about keto mince ointment.
No, we can't.
Yeah, we can.
All right. The end. We're out.
Bye.